I kept having administrative roles at the previous institution I was at, Shattner State College in Nebraska. But I had them without any teaching load reduction, without any increase in pay. Increasingly, I was tired of how small that town was, just the lack of different cultural opportunities and such. And so decided to look for something in a somewhat bigger setting that still had good recreation opportunities close by, that sort of thing. I really was focused on getting a job at the University of Wyoming. So I applied a little bit elsewhere, but really kept an eye on that, anticipating to move to Laramie. But the position came open at UW Casper. I applied for it and was successful. What has kept me here has been two things. First of all, just the people at UW Casper. For the 20 years I've been here, and next month, like on the 5th or something like that, it will be 20 years exactly. Over that entire span, it's just been such a good group of people, faculty that you can believe in and see doing great things, a student body that I find really engaging, fun, focused, a lot of non-traditional adult learners, and they're people who oftentimes have had jobs, but they haven't had a career, and they're looking to make that kind of change in their life, and they're investing in themselves. Having the chance to work with them day in, day out, it's just been amazing and so rewarding. So that, and then the second thing is outdoor recreation. I'm a quite avid fly fisherman, and I have had the best fly fishing of my life here. I have caught at least one trout on a fly rod every month of the year for 28 and a half years. There's been significant change over 20 years. So when I arrived, a notable thing about UW Casper was that it was so distributed. So we had UW Casper on the Casper College campus, which some people's offices were in Leasinger Hall, other persons were up in life sciences, physical sciences. We were at that point kind of beggars on the Casper College campus, right? We're there, not paying any rent. So we would just basically get the space that Casper College really wasn't using. And there were times, and they were always very polite about it, truly polite, but there were times that like the vice president for academic affairs would walk into my office, and I think, from that facial expression, this is just not going to be good news. And it would be like, we need you to move some offices, and I really hope that that's okay. And it's like, I can't really say no. So, and then the outreach building up on the north side of Casper, up by the ball fields, right there. It's like a, 10-minute drive away? And we would have students end class there like 6:50 in the evening and have a class up here at 7. So they'd always walk in late, and the faculty member would be like, why is this person always late? It's like, give them a break, right? They will always be late because they're attending the other class. So that was just a real challenge. And then supervising people at a distance is a challenge. And so a really big change is having this building, which is, I think, a great facility, and being able to bring most of us together. Obviously, those faculty who have labs are off with their lab spaces, working with their students there. That totally makes sense. We kept down the cost of this building by not having any lab spaces within it. So the current model is great, but it allows us a lot more consolidation, and that in turn leads to all sorts of really positive collaborations, informal conversations that then spark new ideas and such. So it's been a fantastic change. Another big change I've seen is that back when I joined UW Casper in 2005, we didn't have any graduate programs. And then we got some graduate programs in the College of Education. Then we got the counselor education program. So before that, we had a leadership program, like train people to be principals and such, basically. Yeah. Which was great and was well enrolled, but then the College of Ed needed to dial that back out of resource constraints. So then counselor education, then we temporarily lost counselor education, then we were able to get it back through some funding, courtesy of the state legislature, and now the social work cohort. So there's MSW part-time program. Today, about 25% of all UW Casper students are graduate students. That's a really significant shift for us. So the founding of UW Casper was spurred in part by Casper College's repeated efforts to become a four-year institution and UW blocking that, but then not turning around and seriously engaging Central Wyoming, I think. So I think actually a happy compromise was reached where both institutions have bought into a branch campus that's co-located on the Casper College campus. And from the beginning, and that's still true today, it is to meet the educational needs of site-bound students in Central Wyoming. So that's why we just have such a different student body than you see at UW Laramie. These are people who just graduate from high school, they relocate, they live in a dorm, then their junior year or whatever, they move on to an apartment in the community and such. And that's great that those people can do that. But a lot of people can't, right? They have a spouse who has a job here, they have kids in school here, that sort of thing. But they still need to be able to access a bachelor's degree or a graduate degree, right? So it was founded for that, and we're still meeting that purpose. And I think we're meeting it really well. I've been really impressed by how over the last 4 years, I think in particular, we have increased the number of research opportunities for students. Internship placements is up really significantly. Our students are engaging in study abroad oftentimes, things like that. These are really high impact experiences for our students, and it's changing lives. I love talking to our students like after commencement ceremony and such, and just hearing their perspective and that sort of thing. It'll be like, oh, working with Florence was just life-changing, and now I'm planning on grad school. So we have the Skelton Scholarship, right, for single parents. I was talking with the head of the head of the scholarship committee several years ago, and that person said, "Oh, we just made our Skelton Scholarship recipient decisions, right?" And she showed me the list, and I quickly scanned through, and a lot of the names are recognized and such. And it's like, great. And that made me happy. So then I walk off to the Gateway building to meet with a Casper College colleague. And walking out of that, I was walking by this lounge space, and I happened to see one of the students on that list. So I sidled over to her and said, "Hi, Liz. Just want you to know, just saw the list of Skelton Scholarship recipients for next year, and you're on the list." She cried. Oh. She really wanted to get a stats minor because she thought that would help make her understanding of social work more robust, right? To know the methodology behind the studies that they're drawing upon, that sort of thing. And I appreciate, right? So because that lengthened the time for her to complete her degree, she worried that she wouldn't qualify, wouldn't be awarded a Skelton Scholarship, right? Because she'd already gotten it for 2 years. This would be a third year. So then I go up to her and basically take the single biggest worry that's been plaguing her for weeks off her mind. And just out of sheer sense of relief, she cried. So it's like a moment, right? And then at commencement then, right, because this conversation is happening May, I'm going to blank on the year, May of like 2013, something like that. We had that conversation. So then the next May, she's graduating, and give her a hug at commencement. And she said to me, "Without the Skelton Scholarship, I couldn't have done it." And she said, "This place has changed my life." And yeah, and she's working in our community now as a social worker. And my wife in her role ends up interacting with Liz just because, helping to feed students on, on to higher ed and hence FAFSA completion, that sort of thing.
True.
Yeah. So just hearing secondhand about the good work that she's doing. She's working with adolescents who are at risk. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Very cool.
Can I do one more story like that?
Please, yes.
Because these,
good.
right?
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was at Natrona County International Airport, and it's early, right? I was catching like a 6:30 a.m. flight for some conference or something. And I ran into an alumnus of ours who I knew because of scholarships and that sort of thing like 2 years before. And so I said, what are you here for? And she said, I'm flying off to Washington, D.C. to get training, because she'd gotten hired at a social service agency based in Riverton, but it has like a 3 or 4 county service area. So she was doing a good job there, and after 2 or 3 years, the director that she was working under left, and she got promoted as director. And so she's flying off, like in her first days as this incoming director, to get training in Washington, D.C. from the funding agency, right? And so she's talking to me, and her eyes are big because of all the things that are happening in her life. And she said, I never thought I'd have opportunities like this. This is amazing to me. Sorry, can I do a third? Because he's like my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So talking with students that received the Skelton Scholarship, I've been struck by how many talked about how they said, okay, so I could reduce the number of hours that I'm working, and that way focus more on my kids and focus more on my studies. Mm-hmm. I've been struck by how many of the students relating that have then gone on to say things like, so my kids' grades started to improve. This one mom talked about how she said, I realized my job at this point really is being a student. And so my daughter and I make dinner, then we clean up after dinner. I get my homework out, and my rule for her is she has to get her homework out now too. And we both set our homework out at the kitchen table, and the agreement is it's silence for an hour, right? If you have a really pressing question, something like that, you can pose it. Otherwise, it's silence for an hour, but we're both going to do our homework. And she has turned around in school. So it's not just that person. The impact of the scholarship is multi-generational from day one. It's great.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Right? That story, the first time when that parent was relaying that to me, I got chills. I don't know this firsthand that well, but I do know that it was a rocky road getting Casper College truly bought into the vision of supporting arrivals being on their campus and trying to recruit their students. The thing is, our being in Casper is a recruiting asset for them, right? Jed Dockstader and Charlie Cruz recruit students for the MedLab Tech program that Casper College has all the time. Jed told me that he thinks he spends more time recruiting students for them than for us, which totally makes sense. They're the feeder program for us. So that's why Casper College invited UW Casper to leave the campus in 1978. It was that way for 8 years that we were off the campus. But the legacy of that remains, that perspective that Casper College, shouldn't support UW Casper, or maybe UW Casper will go away, and that way Casper College can become a four-year institution. There's still pockets of that viewpoint within the community. Back during the campus strategic plan process for Casper College, back in 2009, 2010, Casper College, under Dr. Walt Nolte's leadership, and he was a great president for Casper College, they were really looking to raise the physical infrastructure at Casper College. And part of that was a shared building, right? When they looked at their partner institutions, there's like University of North Dakota and like 1 or 2 others, and they have like 2 office spaces, 2 classrooms. And then we would have like, I don't know, 15 faculty offices, 5 to 10 staff offices, and then more than a dozen classrooms, right? It was just, we were an order of magnitude bigger. And so Walt said to me, I really want you guys to, partner with us, build a building, because you're just taking up so much space. It's like, I appreciate that, Walt. So we'd have these meetings where it's 95% Casper College people, and then like 4% community members, and then 1 or 2 UW Casper people. And people would honestly stand up, look straight at me during these sessions and say, well, if we have to have UW Casper on our campus, we should put them out past the Ag Pavilion. Let's put them on the South 40 way out there and not have a connecting road. I mean, they were just pretty over about, yes, quite feisty about not about making sure that, UW Casper didn't feel the love about what would happen. But, you hear people's concerns, listen, really try to genuinely engage with people and show that, okay, there's some ways in which the relationship could be seen as rivalry or competitive, but there's a lot of ways in which it's really win-win. And a lot of people, I think, are in the misimpression that you just take a community college and kind of double it, and then you have a 4-year university. And that's not the case. Like, they have an engineering program, but at the 4-year level, it has to be broken out. And it's like chemical engineering, electrical engineering, architectural engineering, right? All these. And they each have their own specialized accreditation. And they each need to have multiple faculty members. It's not like you take the 1 or 2 engineering faculty members you have at the freshman, sophomore level, double it, and suddenly you have this robust engineering college. You're not even close at that point, right? So I think there's some misimpressions or misunderstanding on that side. And then university oftentimes isn't a great partner, not as communicative as it should be, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it brings some friction to the relationship. But, we partnered and created a great space. And so challenges, making it so that it's kind of the rank and file of Casper College really sees the benefit of UW Casper being on this campus, and seeing that in many ways we share a mission, we don't compete. I think as a broad rule, the most important decisions typically are personnel decisions, who you hire, who you work to retain, that sort of thing. So I think that UW Casper was initially really set up for success because Pete Simpson, and hence the Simpson family, its connections, the affection that name, I think, rightly commands within the state, helped give UW Casper legitimacy from the get-go. Because here's Pete Simpson, faculty member at UW, of the Simpson clan, leading it up as its very first director. And then Pete Simpson made this great decision and hired Renee Woodward as his right-hand person. And she's amazing, right? She's encyclopedic. And so she handled human resources and budgeting and all these different things. And I worked with her for 9 years, and she walks on water. She's amazing. So that was really pivotal in 1976. Okay. And then Maggie Murdoch was an excellent leader. And so when Maggie became the leader for UW Casper, I think that was also a really pivotal moment. I hope that bringing me in 2005 as Associate Dean and Director of UW Casper was also a good moment for UW Casper. And I think that, it's been ups and downs, but during the 15 years that I've led UW Casper, I think that there's been more ups than downs during that period. And then, so you have the personnel decisions is really key set of things. Second one is the university leadership buying into the idea of a shared building here and helping identify where the $16 million would come from. Initially, the idea was that the university would just appropriate like $3 to $6 million, and that we would fundraise the other $10 to even $13 million. thankfully, a couple other capital construction projects on the main campus came in under budget. And so they were able to, so they had like 3 or 4 set aside, and then some other things came in under budget. And so it went from, Brent, we're going to look to you to help take the lead on fundraising millions of dollars. And I was like, to suddenly it's like, no, we think we can handle all of it. So that solved the financial issue. Casper College was able to pass a revenue bond within Natrona County. And so the financing for this building came together in remarkably fast and easy fashion over the course of about 9 months in 2011 or so.
Okay.
So today it's called Advanced Casper, but back then it was the Casper Area Economic Development Alliance, CADA. They did a SWOT analysis for the community because they were having a harder time attracting businesses. They were having less success than they would have otherwise anticipated. Okay. So they did a SWOT analysis, and the central weakness that they identified was the lack of a 4-year university within the community. And they said it made it harder to attract firms and really skilled workers to the community. So once I heard that, I reached out, got engaged in the process, and we set up what we call the Higher Education Committee. So it was led by CADA, but Walt Nolte, president of Casper College, myself, CADA leadership, Chamber of Commerce leadership, and then just important community members, the mayor and such, were all involved in this. And then after months of meetings and discussions, we decided to write a strategic plan. And I thought, it's a strategic plan about how CADA is going to help support higher education, especially at the bachelor's and graduate level. I want to write the draft rather than somebody else. I really believe in the power of the first draft, right? James Madison believed in the power of the first draft. That's why he brought a draft constitution to the Constitutional Convention, right, in 1787. So drawing from him, because American political thought's my jam. So, so drawing from him, I really believe in the power of the first draft. So I wrote the draft of that strategic plan. And in it, we called for creating a medical laboratory sciences program and bringing back the counselor education program.
And we have done both those things.
Yes, because the business community got on board both of those things. Okay. And when I talked to a state legislator about why we need additional money, they're on guard already. When a business leader walks up and says, here's why I want you to support this initiative at UW Casper, it's a whole different conversation. Yeah. Oh, it's really evolved.
Oh, it has evolved.
Yes.
Okay.
So back in 2005, when I was first brought in, it was a smaller role, right? I was associate dean within the outreach school and director of UW Casper. So yes, the same sort of supervisory of staff, same budget authority and such, same having a lead role with the Casper College relationship, NCSD #1 relationship and such. But I wasn't a senior academic official within the university, right? And so when it came to, I don't know, who's going to be on search committee for hiring a dean, who's going to be appointed to the university is trying to pursue some new initiative with this, or trying to figure out cost-cutting measures in response to budget cut, that sort of thing, I just did not get selected for those sorts of roles. At this point, I am the longest serving dean out of the 13 deans, right? And it's not like it's, I'm right at 6 years. Like next week or something like that, I'll hit that six-year mark. It's just there's been so much turnover at that level. But that also means that when those sorts of tasks come up now, I disproportionately get selected. Yeah. When the state legislature made changes regarding diversity, equity, inclusion efforts within the university, put together a committee of 12 or 15 persons to figure out the policy response, or set of responses really, to that significant legal change. And I was on that group, right? I was one of two deans on that group. And that was a really important effort. That was, I think, one of the two most important things that the university did that year was involved in that, and it was complicated and time consuming. So by having the role at the dean level instead of associate dean level, it really changes the level of prominence you have within the institution, changes what types of requests you get that are not UW Casper specific, but that still really have implications for the branch campus. I put 2.5 years of my life seriously into this building, all the way from, there's a 50-year lease agreement, because it turns out under Wyoming state law, you can have two different types of bonds flowing into a single project. You can't, you have to have like a single owner in a sense, right? And so the university decided to have a 50-year lease agreement with Casper College, but with a certain pay schedule, so that if they can't just like kick us off. Under the 50-year lease agreement, they have to buy us out, since we put $16 million into it. And it's kind of backloaded. So for like the first 25 years, they would have to buy most of that 16 million, and then it starts to taper out. And the idea of, that's in effect the prenuptial clause to the agreement. And I said, given the history and given the pockets of attitude that still remain, we need a prenup for this marriage. And so the vice president for general counsel then and government relations said, that is a good idea, so we'll put that in there. So he and I co-authored the 50-year lease agreement. I led up the planning team on the UW Casper side for this facility, attended the weekly construction meetings. My background's political philosophy, right? It's not construction management at all. And so there were a lot of times I felt at field, but having a chance to review the budget on a weekly basis and then head things off. So that in long term proved to be really helpful, because something they were going to try to do was cut a lot of the technology out of this building, out of our side, because the budget was getting really tight. And so they were trying to raise that to the tune of $400,000. And I'm a pretty, amenable guy. I don't think my feathers get ruffled that easily. But that was the one time I lost it with the construction manager. And So in the end, we were able to keep that $400,000 for the technology side on our, so that would be one. And then that I would highlight. And the second one would just be fundraising. When I took over in 2005, we had only one scholarship that was endowed, and that was the leadership scholarship. And the endowment was $25,000. So it paid out one $1,000 scholarship a year. Yeah, now we have much more, and we have a faculty fellowship that's endowed as well. And our total endowment amount is now over 1.5 million. Wow. Right? It's just a whole different level. Yeah. So it creates more opportunities for our students and our faculty. By and large, it's been really good. The broader environment really does impact morale, and that's just inevitable, I think. And so during budget cuts, it's harder. When there's leadership that you can't feel a lot of confidence in, it gets harder as well. But I've been blessed. I've been here for 20 years, and there's been a lot more good times than bad times. Sometimes you feel like you're playing defense a lot. Like the main campus, I'll often feel like, if a faculty line goes to Casper, it means we're not getting a Laramie, that sort of thing. And even like, our department has 2 people up in Casper. Maybe we can just do with one. I can just department chair basically saying, I can poach. I'll just take. There's the dean of the College of Education I want to relocate 2 faculty down to Laramie, and I wanted to just veto that because they were great faculty. And so, we were basically at loggerheads, and this dean, right? This is back when I was an associate dean rather than dean, was just going to try to pull rank on me. And so then I brought Maggie in, who was my supervisor, and then the 3 of us met, and the dean of the College of Education and myself went in a very civil way, but we went toe to toe for an hour. And at the end, I did feel the need to say, Kay, I hope you know I totally respect you and think you're a great dean for the College of Education. I spoke with a lot of candor today and passionate about this because I really value these faculty. I think they're essential for what we're doing at UW Casper. But I hope that my being forceful today doesn't hurt our relationship. And she said, no, Brent, and if I were in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. So I appreciate it. But I hope you understand my perspective too. And it's like, I do. And the faculty stayed. So this is my sense. And I worry that my sense is very partial, right? Because it's one thing to be like in the team, and then it's a different thing to lead the team. Today we had this meeting, and I think it was actually quite important, right? And so we talked about change in leadership, that sort of thing. And I wanted to make the pitch, right? I came in with basically like just two things in my head that I wanted to convey. But one was, I want this group, UW Casper, that I really believe in, to have a sense of agency about this transition. Speak up for yourselves and say, we want a voice in this. We want a really leading voice in managing this transition because we understand the branch campus. A lot of people in Laramie don't. Let's, come together and have an effective voice for UW Casper. So that was my pitch. How that looked going forward, I feel like that's more out of my hands and it's more needs to be in the team's hands. And that pitch got picked up and there's a plan of action going forward. And so it shows how there's this trust in each other, right? People spoke up, people were candid, people had confidence in each other. People feel like they really are listened to. I was, on one topic, I took myself completely out. Another topic, I offered like friendly advice from the side and such. The people here feel empowered and trust one another. And that says a lot of really positive things. So the Master's in Social Work program is really close to my heart. I worked on that thing for a dozen years. I'm not exaggerating because we can go way back with Dr. Mona Schatz, division head for social work years ago. She and I tried to get that going. A successor of hers, first name Donna, can't remember, Donna Bliss. She and I put together a comprehensive proposal that we shopped around the university and just did not get the financial support that we needed for it. Then that was 2009 to 2014, those 2 rounds of efforts came to naught, but I didn't give up, right? And so came back into the role in 2019 and then had a really good division head to work with, Eleanor Pepe Downey, and she and I put together yet another proposal, I think number 3 that I've co-written in terms of this. But UW at this point had a tuition revenue share model that we could opt for. And so on the basis of that tuition revenue share, and then through CPM, through Central Position Management, I was able to also get raised position, which is really essential to the fiscal picture being realistic. We're able to get that one going. And I just think it's great for our community. It's great for the social work community, being able to get additional training and such. So that one's really near and dear to my heart. Medical laboratory sciences would be another one. Getting counselor education back. I'm really proud of what we've done with organizational leadership as well. That one was moribund. The curriculum hadn't been changed in a decade, and there had been an interim director for 4 years. Right? It was just, it was withering due to a lack of attention. And so I made the pitch within the university and got people to sign off on it being at UW Casper. Then made the pitch to the board trustees in May of 2020. And I promised them, if you're willing to relocate the administrative home of this to UW Casper, we will put time and energy into this. It will get the attention it deserves. And look at the results. moving forward, I think that one of the single most important things that UW Casper has underway as an initiative is building that master's in organizational leadership. I think that that could really help further grow enrollment, again, at the graduate level. And I just think some really cool things could happen coming out of it, especially since it's that stackable certificate model and therefore is really collaborative across the university. I think it will help. I think the UW Casper is going to help the entire university raise its game in terms of graduate education by making it so that stackable certificates are just a really common feature for graduate education at UW. There was one program that was really difficult to let go of emotionally for me. I fought for years to have English as a degree program here. And then we got it, and we hired this great faculty member, Ariel Zebrak. And Ariel was great, and our numbers were increasing, and there was a lot of energy with it. Cool cultural events being sponsored, bring in speakers and such. And then Laramie English department saw that Ariel's a rock star, because she's so clearly a rock star. And so they pushed to relocate her. And I wasn't the leader of UW Casper then, so there wasn't an advocate sternly advocating for keeping Ariel here. So we lost her. They promised to, switch out somebody, and that person didn't work out at the university at all. So, but before that person went away, the program just withered, and we had to sunset it. Okay. Yeah. So that one was really tough for me. Ariel is whip smart, right? She's one of the brightest people you'll ever talk to, and yet she's so unassuming and like grounded, and because people who are like next level, right? Like, I don't know, I'm not that intellectually shy and such, right? I tend to have a fair amount of intellectual self-confidence, but even with me, I'm like, her microprocessors are just a lot faster, and right, she's just super bright, and a lot of persons who are like that just aren't as.
She can talk on your level.
Oh yeah,
okay,
and enjoys it. So I think really two. So one is UW Casper before the rest of the university, and before really, COVID in the world forced the adoption of a lot of things in a kind of a high flex format for many people. UW Casper adopted that just because that was a way that we could best meet the competing set of interest and needs for our immediate constituency here, but legitimate interest from UW Laramie in terms of their student body being served and such. So when we are asking for a position, a faculty line here, if that person is still helping to teach and meet the instructional needs of UW Laramie, it's a much easier sell than if they're not. So we've just made it just par for the course that most people are teaching in some sort of mixed modality here. It made it so that the COVID shutdown impacted UW Casper, I think, the least of any part of the entire university. We were just already doing a lot of high flex stuff. We just kept doing what we were doing. Yeah, it's pretty smooth, in contrast to a lot of other parts. So that's one way in which it's really impacted. The second one is that in 2019, when the provost asked me to take over, one of the things that she specifically said was, your enrollment numbers are way down, right? We'd gone from well over 300 when I stepped down in 2014 to spring semester of 2019, 143 students, right? We'd fallen by more than half. And so Kate Miller basically said, improve morale, improve the relations with the main campus, because there's a lot of friction there. But Brent, you need to bring up enrollment, right? And so the one like hard edict to me was bring up enrollment. So I thought that's a totally reasonable request. Yeah. I went and looked at the graduation numbers for Casper College, especially broken out by degree area in our areas. And In a good year, they were stagnant. In bad years, they were declining like 1 to 4%. And this is year after year.
Yeah.
So our central feeder institution is flat to declining in their enrollments. And that just creates such strong headwinds, right? It's really hard to make progress against that. So how do we grow given that sort of thing? And so I thought a good amount about it. And then as I took over in mid-2019, talked with Valerie Garrett and Rosalind Grenfell, Scott Seville, Ariel Zebrak. Yes, about this, and generated different ideas. And the three that really stuck were grow at the graduate level, get an online program, improve recruitment from Casper College. Valerie was really the improve recruitment from Casper College, and she came up with some really good ideas about how practically to do that. I was the one who was much more, if we could take over one online program and grow at the graduate level. So those are the two areas that I brought in and thought are really trying to make these areas of focus. And at this point, organizational leadership is our single largest degree program by head count, right? And that moved from 140 something to this semester 370. Organizational leadership, which when we took it over, was like 40 students, and now it's over 100. I'm so pleased to see UW Casper celebrate its 50th anniversary. The footprint of this organization on Central Wyoming is really profound. You can't walk into an elementary school across the entire county without coming across UW Casper alumni. You can't go to a social service agency that employs social workers and not come across UW Casper alumni. We have changed so much for the better the way that Central Wyoming works and lives. We've created so many opportunities for the students that are graduating from Casper College or people who are relocating to Central Wyoming. So seeing that success and being able to celebrate it, I think, is really meaningful. I hope that UW Casper is bigger. I hope that UW Casper continues to invest in those high impact practices and opportunities for students, internships, study abroad, research opportunities, especially for undergraduates. I hope that we continue to have robust graduate enrollments, and if anything, that those have grown. Having graduate assistants around is really helpful. It's a great experience for them, right? As a former grad student and grad assistant for 7 years, I think, at a different institution, yeah, that's a life-changing experience. But having grad assistants around helps out faculty and changes the way that the programs that the graduate assistants are within have discussions and such. So I really hope that those opportunities continue to expand at UW Casper. Actually, for students, I would say appreciate the opportunity that's available to you. There were thoughtful, diligent people who worked hard to make it so that UW Casper is an enduring, successful organization that creates meaningful educational opportunity for students. It didn't just happen, right? It wasn't sent down from a mountaintop. Instead, people have worked hard, right, including me, in order to create the set of opportunities that are available here. And so appreciate that, but also recognize that ideally you're just one step in the chain, and there are ways to contribute back. When I would talk with our student teachers every semester before their student placement, I would say, you get this placement at Park Elementary or whichever partner schools we have that year, because last year and the year before that and the year before that, the student teachers in the role that you're about to have did a good job. That doesn't mean they knew everything. You're a student teacher, right? Take the student part seriously. But it means that they showed up on time, they looked professional, they worked well with their peers, they listened to their mentor teacher. And when you do that, you make sure that next year that mentor teacher wants to have another student teacher, and you help pass that opportunity on rather than just taking it for granted. Same thing. So if you have a good experience at UW Casper, mention that to other people. Help create word of mouth around it within the community. Help build that set of opportunities for the next generation, because the previous generation did it for you. You need to pay that forward. For faculty, I would say take shared governance seriously. And shared governance is a two-way street. You should have a say, and that say should be meaningful, and administration should listen to you. But that means you also need to show up. It means you need to listen and understand the situation that administrators are trying to respond to, whether they're responding to it, ineptly or adeptly, right? Figure out the real lay of the land and then speak to that, advocate for yourselves, but take that responsibility seriously. Also, never lose sight that higher education really is about faculty, students, and the interaction of the two. I think administrators that lose sight of that end up not being good administrators, but faculty need to keep sight of that as well for them, because it's not about just, the taxpayers of Wyoming creating a job for you. It's about your responsibilities with your students and making sure that they're set up for success.
Awesome.
Okay.